To be honest, I'm not your best cleaner. One of the best pieces of advice was to thin slice. Right off the bat, he told me, he's like, you messed up and you built a business off one client. I have a very strong background in the vacation rental industry. Like, how do we continue that pattern year round? First job, she's like now going on 4 years. She's gotten multiple raises, much more responsibility. And it's great to see, that I've been able to provide that platform.
What is your revenue split from residential to commercial?
We've scaled to where 54% of our business is a combination of residential and commercial. God forbid, like something happens to me, and I'm wearing all of those hats. It's bad. It's a process. Don't be afraid to do it. Don't be afraid to fail.
All right, everybody, welcome back to another episode of Behind the Redwood Curtain. My name is Andrew Pescatore, and this is my co-host, Luke Kennedy. And today we have a very special guest. All right, let's get into the bio. Oh, got to stop it early. Yeah. So Luke's got a big boy job, and whenever people walk in, he has to go talk to them. So anyways, let's continue on with the show. All right. She owns Redwood Coast Cleaners, LLC, a locally owned and operated cleaning service company based in McKinleyville in Humboldt County, Humboldt County. She does stuff in Arcata and Eureka as well. They provide residential, commercial, and short-term rental cleaning services across communities, including Arcata, Eureka, Trinidad, Blue Lake, and Fortuna. They emphasize client experience, reliable service, and full licensing and insurance in their operations. Please welcome the owner, Dawn Geyer.
Thanks, Andrew. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. So what we like to do after we read the bio is get into some current events and then kind of like your background. But since Luke is not here, I want him to talk about this current event going on right now, the Startup Humboldt competition. We'll get in more to that later. But do you kind of want to go into a background of your start in business and how you started Redwood Coast Cleaners, what you did before, and how you brought that into what you do now?
Okay. Yeah, it's actually kind of interesting. So I have a very strong background in the vacation rental industry. Locally is where that started. I graduated Humboldt State University, and I did their recreation administration program there back before it was Cal Poly, Humboldt State. And within that major, the recreation administration, I did a heavy emphasis in local tourism. And so I worked for a vacation rental company locally doing marketing and reservations management for quite some time. And then I moved abroad and was in the same industry for quite a while, both like building my own vacation rentals, cleaning them, marketing them. Also had a property management company in Mexico where I manage other people's vacation rentals. Fast forward, moved back to Humboldt County after the pandemic happened and had the opportunity. A buddy of mine was starting a vacation rental company locally and wanted to outsource all the cleaning for those properties. So he said, "Hey, are you interested in starting a cleaning company?" And of course I said yes. So that's where we're at now. But then it, fast forward, it's morphed into different types of cleanings. But it all started with that foundation, cleaning vacation rentals.
That's really cool. Sorry, my microphone was muted. This is your first business, right?
No.
Okay. So you've had other ventures before?
Yes.
Okay. And what were those in?
So I've been an independent marketing consultant for quite some time. Yeah. Who specialize in different tourism related stuff, vacation rentals, international tours, all of that with heavy marketing emphasis. Then moving to Mexico, I owned and operated my own vacation rentals and as a business. And then I had a property management firm. I also owned a bar and restaurant in Mexico.
Oh, that's really cool.
Yeah.
And what year was that?
Oh, so this was like I launched both of those, the restaurant and the vacation rental management, the same year COVID started. So
Oh, really?
yeah, that was really interesting. Things moved really slow. Our restaurant had to shut down for a few months. With everything going on in the world. So, and then I couldn't get any vacation rental management clients because there was no tourism happening. So, I kind of rode that wave and like things started to pick back up again. But it was rough. Yeah. So, yeah.
So you did the the vacation rental management properties and the bar all within like the same time period, and then Redwood Coast Cleaners started shortly after that.
Yes,
So
correct. Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
So because of COVID, you ended up shutting down those companies, and then you moved into doing the cleaning.
A lot happened. So we kept the companies going, but I had moved back to the United States, to Humboldt County, and was trying to manage everything, all my rentals and businesses from abroad. And that was just too much. Eventually, I wanted to fully transition back to Humboldt County and stop spreading myself so thin. So ended up selling my businesses down there, selling my properties down there, and just focusing on building the business here locally.
And what year did you found Redwood Coast Cleaners?
2022.
Oh, okay. Wow.
Hmm.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, do you think that back then, say Startup Humboldt was doing the competition they're doing right now for $200,000 in milestone-based funding, not prize funding? Do you think that would have helped your business?
Well, definitely could help any business. One for me personally, I think with the cleaning company, it was such low startup. I wouldn't have needed that much money, so I would have prevented me from going for something like that grand, because the business was like, it just wasn't structured like that. Like I didn't really put anything out of pocket to start this business. Yeah.
Oh, when you started your business, did you invest? You said you didn't invest any money out of pocket. Did you borrow anything or?
No,
Okay.
no.
And did you? I mean, I imagine it took like tools and or like equipment and cleaning.
Very minimal. Yeah.
Okay.
Very
Awesome.
minimal.
I
Yeah.
love to hear that. Here at the SBDC, we work with a lot of small businesses and a lot of business owners, or a lot of people that want to own a business find that their plan is very contingent on additional funding that they don't have. And if you can't operate the business and get revenue to get money, and then you can't borrow it, you're in that catch-22 situation.
100%. Yeah, that's why I think a lot of companies or a lot of startups would benefit from that because I think I'm kind of in a unique industry where it's a very low startup, very low. Fast forward almost 4 years later, my expenses are crazy, and like this is the first year that I did apply for a credit card. I just bought a company vehicle. I hired through recruitment agencies as the business has grown, so there's been a lot of expenses that at the initial stages we weren't there, so, but most businesses aren't like that. I feel like I was in that unique niche, where I was able to just get in the door for very little, very little.
Yeah, I feel the same way as you because with service businesses like cleaning or video production, it's very low startup costs, especially if you could get some help, say from like a family member. For example, my grandma got me this camera that we're using for you, and that helped out a lot because with the camera I can just go out and shoot. But a lot of video or social media and digital marketers don't even use the camera; they use their phone. But that's where I'm saying getting the like it's a low startup cost. So for me, I was thankful for my grandma to get me that camera because it's helped a lot and I love the cinematic style. But Startup Humble is also offering a micro venture prize. So out of that 200,000, I think they're splitting 10,000 for a micro venture, which would fit the mold for something like what we're doing, whereas the rest of the 190,000 in milestone funding goes towards the next economic changing business here in Humboldt. Um, and yeah, I completely forgot where I was going with that.
So when you built a crew, how long were you working with your first crew until you were able to expand into multiple crews?
It morphed pretty quickly. Yeah. So I think it's like all kind of a blur now, like from where we started to where we are. Like for example, right now I think I have like 14 employees. And at that time when we first started, we just had a few rentals that we were cleaning pretty regularly. So I think it was just me, and like three other cleaners initially, maybe at the most. And so, yeah, that just grew and grew as the property management company grew, and they acquired more listings. We had more work. But then, yeah, at some point, I realized, hey, this is extremely seasonal, and like we're not going to be able to feed our families year round off this one sector. So we started expanding and doing residential and commercial cleaning, and that's when things really started to grow.
Have you ever felt like your business or event deserves more attention? That's where AAA Productions comes in. We don't just make videos, we tell stories. From small businesses to community events, we also do real estate, aerial videography, and so much more. Let us help you stand out with cinematic content that connects with your audience. So, if you're ready to take your brand to the next level, contact me today using the links in the description and let's make something amazing together. Thank you, and back to the show. How did that process come about? Because I remember we were having a conversation a couple weeks ago where you said you had hired like two new employees and you've never met them.
Yes.
What's that feel like as a business owner who built everything from the ground up to where you hire your first employee to now you have employees that you didn't even meet until you had that giant meetup with everybody? What's that like?
It's an interesting feeling, and I'm kind of could be on either side of the fence. It's great that I'm able to provide jobs and not have to be like super and like involved in the operations part of it, like managing the employees and stuff, because that shows that I'm on a different spectrum with the business. I'm working on it instead of in it, which is really where I shine. To be honest, I'm not your best cleaner, but can I run a business? Yes. So it's like it's great in that sense to know that I'm positioned where I need to be, and that I don't have to have that contact day to day. But it's also like I want to have that, so it's finding a balance between being like, sometimes they'll be like, you're like Oz, you're like the great Oz behind the curtain. Like we don't even see you half the time, which, like I said, could go either way, but I still want to have that connection to my team and, know that I'm actually a person too, like I'm involved in the business, even though they don't see all of that. I'm not in the field all the time.
Yeah, how do you balance like having a face to the name and then staying back and doing the operations, because big corporations like Amazon, Apple, Facebook, list goes on, nobody will ever meet the founders, and they sometimes talk about always wanting to know what their employees are up to, but after a certain point, having thousands of employees, you can't, it's physically impossible to meet everybody. So how do you keep that balance with keeping a face to the name and running the operations, especially as you've started to scale up and are continuing to scale up?
I think just like, I mean, it's a small community here too, so just keeping that in mind, like in how I run my business, finding any opportunity where like we do weekly, because we're not centralized, we're all spread out and in the field, like all over. So we do these weekly team meetings, and I try to via Zoom, and I try to always be on those when I can, just if it's a quick check in. Doing company wide events, getting out and doing bowling, or we do just little get-togethers from time to time, and so just yeah, making sure that I'm present for people to feel like I'm approachable too. So it's not like I'm just this entity over here, but I'm actually part of the team, even though I'm not in the field.
So, you're managing this larger team, at least larger than the start. Are the people that you started the business with, are they your managing, your managing level? Are they kind of have they um, been promoted to overseeing their own operations?
Yes, absolutely. And I have a great story about that. So one of my first employees was a younger gal, and I didn't want to be like ageist or anything. It was like literally her first job, and went out on a limb and I was like, okay, like it just has to be to a certain standard, I actually hired her and her friend. The friend wasn't so great, like I ended up having to let her go, but I pulled aside the one gal and was like, "Hey, I see something in you. Like you're dedicated. Like I can see you moving up in the company over time, just stick with it. Like I had to let your friend go because of XYZ and I just want to get you on the right keep you on the right track." Well, 4 years later, she's now like my inventory manager. I have her doing a lot more involved stuff, and she's been with us since pretty much day one. First job, she's like now going on 4 years. She's gotten multiple raises, much more responsibility. And I even have her as a lead on a lot of jobs, like where people come to her and ask her for guidance. And it's great to see, that I've been able to provide that platform for her at such a young age and to like motivate her to stick with it and, be a productive employee that, is very valuable to us. So.
How do you keep the quality standards up as Redwood Coast Cleaners? Because you can't be there for every single job. How do you make sure and trust your managing level force to the people on the ground doing the work? How do you keep that trust, and how does that relieve stress while you're like doing the operations in your office? How shit. uh,
No, I hear you. Yeah, it's a great question, and I'm actually headed to a meeting right after this. With that in mind, the quality control. It's an ongoing process because as we're growing, that it's constantly changing. Like what we need to be doing, and like you said, we can't be at every clean. So it's like we have labels for certain employees that are labeled a lead cleaner. So we have like different meetings with those people to say, okay, like this is so we have eyes in the field that are maybe like helping with the quality control or like training protocols with newer employees. So yeah, it's basically working pretty in depth with our lead cleaners to have them help us in the field. Um, but we're always looking for new ways to assist with the quality control. Like I have at some point, hiring an operations manager was huge because I have that person as an interface with all the employees. So if there's something that I want to implement to help with quality control or whatever other aspect of the business, I then have a person to help work with the individual in the team to implement those things. So,
yeah, now that your business has scaled up favorably, what is your revenue split from residential to commercial?
well, we're still about 46% vacation rentals. So we're still pretty heavy on the vacation rentals. But now we've scaled to where 54% of our business is a combination of residential and commercial. Um, And a big goal of ours right now is we're like about to launch all these marketing initiatives, which some of you're helping with, Andrew, with the videography. We're wanting, because due to the seasonality of the vacation rentals, we're wanting to bridge that gap with the commercial and the residential sectors so that our recurring revenue is equal or greater than what we're getting from the vacation rentals, so that it's more what's the word, like, so it's the recurring revenue is more predictable, whereas with the vacation rentals it fluctuates a lot. So that's been an issue for us, even though it makes up 46% of our revenue, our total revenue, it's not predictable. And that's an issue.
Yeah. Does that change based off seasons?
Yes.
Like 46% could be, you said vacation?
Yeah. So our overall revenue is made up of 46% vacation rental.
And
Mhm.
does that change, say, November, December, that goes to like 30?
It's
Okay.
gonna,
Well,
yeah.
46% on like an annual
Annual.
basis.
Oh,
Exactly.
annual. Oh, okay,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
hmm
When is it, when is vacation like its peak?
Summer and
Summer.
fall.
Summer,
Yeah.
yeah.
hmm
That's cool.
Yeah. So we do really good during the summer months. And so that's where, as a business owner, I'm seeing that we need to bridge that gap for the rest of the year. So we can't just be maxing out in the summer months, which is great. We want that. That's great. But like, how do we continue that pattern year round? And that's through recurring revenue, which is going to be either commercial or residential. Like that's what we're looking at. So
Window cleaning.
window cleaning, our new sector. Yep.
And so, do you do exclusively Humboldt County, or do you do any jobs outside of Humboldt County? What's your radius? What's your territory?
So currently Humboldt County. So we're all the way from Oric to Fortuna, and we only go as far east as Blue Lake. We don't go out to Willow Creek or Carlotta or anything like that. Currently, I would like to expand up to Crescent City. I've been approached several times for cleaning services up there, and the one reason that I haven't expanded is the quality control aspect. I want to make sure that I have that, dialed in before expanding outside of my general area. But the idea is I'm really all about automations and streamlining operations. And this is kind of like a little test baby for me in some aspects, because what I've learned about business and automations and all of that, like I realize not only does it help with scalability, but it's like I could replicate that. That I could take the formulas that I have, the systems that I have in place, and I could easily replicate that in other marketplaces. So who knows,
Yeah,
where,
with something like hiring out someone to do your pressure washing division and someone else to do your marketing division, does that stress of having to micromanage like kind of go away once you trust the person and like they just do your thing for you, or that division that they're covering for you? Like, does that take a lot of stress out from your day-to-day operations and help you focus on continuing the automation?
Yeah, so pretty early in, I'd say I think it was the first year of business, I hired a business coach who was specific to my industry, which I think was really key. But one of the things that he taught me that I'm like heavy in right now, that I think was one of the best pieces of advice, was to thin slice. And by that, it's like thin slicing every aspect of your operations. So the marketing, the hiring, the bookkeeping, the quality control, they're just like whatever you can slice thinner, so that if shit hits the fan and like someone has to pick up, or like let's say for God forbid like something happens to me, like, and I'm wearing all of those hats, it's bad, and so I had, for instance, one person who was doing a lot of stuff. She was doing HR, payroll, hiring. I pushed her into sales for a little while. I was like, "Oh, can you just take the calls for us too?" And like it was working out well. But unfortunately, she got ill. She had to be hospitalized, and like some things with her health like really declined rapidly, and she couldn't stay on. She couldn't stay committed to the role, and understandably. And so that left me scrambling. I had her wearing so many hats, and that was extremely stressful. That was last year. And so this year, I've thin sliced all those things, and I'm actually down to the last thing, which is payroll. I'm still doing payroll, but I actually met with another local business owner this past week who I'm talking with, outsourcing that. So yes, to answer your question, once you have those things thin sliced, like it feels so good. I just hired a marketing team. I have a sales department now. I have someone specifically that does all my hiring. And I know that if that person was to get up, any of those people were to get up and fly away, it wouldn't impact my business so much because it's just one aspect. And I can easily, because I've created the systems, like find someone else to fill that role. But yeah, it's once you have one person doing too many things, it's like so stressful. It's so stressful. But the more you can divide your tasks out, it's like they can specialize in that part of the business. It's so much. It's game changing for me.
So, looking back, through managing your business and overseeing the different operations, what's one mistake that still stings, or you still have like that lingers in the back of your head? And yeah, like how would you change that moment, and what would have you done differently?
That's a great question. And this is something I learned from my business coach as well. Right off the bat, he told me, he's like, you messed up. And I thought, what do you mean? And like, he's like, he just called me out. He said, you built a business off one client, which was the property management company. I love my client. I'm not like saying anything negative, but as a business owner, I realized I put all my eggs in that basket. And still to this day, that makes up 46% of my revenue. If I don't diversify and for whatever reason, that partnership disintegrates, or for, there could be a million things. It's like you don't build your business off one client. Like I should have started diversifying right out the gate instead of putting all of my energy into that one client. Big mistake. And it's especially because it's a client, the way that my coach said it, it's like the vacation rentals are kind of a yellow light, like, so you have clients that are green light, like recurring. I want cleanings every 2 weeks, or I own a business. I want cleanings 4 times a week. Like that green light, go, recurring revenue, 100%. He taught me that the red lights were like the one-time cleans, that are just might not result in anything else. But vacation rentals are kind of like that yellow light, they're seasonal. There's a lot of things about them that can impact your business.
That's that resonates with me a lot because before I started working here at startup Humboldt, I had one client that I was relying on for everything. And looking back on it, yes, I should have worked harder to find more clients and do more work. And things really weren't working out for me in that regard, like sales. And then he dropped me, and that really hurt. That was like my job. I worked all throughout the summer working with that client and just not taking any initiative to find more clients. He dropped me, and I was like, oh crap, like I'm screwed, because I didn't have like a full-time job, and that was a side job. No, my business was my full-time job. And I was like, oh my God. So I reached out to a bunch of real estate agents because I've been really wanting to get into the real estate scene. Didn't work out. And then when I started here at Startup Humboldt, I was like, okay, this is like a fresh start for me. I need to figure out my business. I need to figure out my services, because the way I had the contract structure with that client was as many videos as possible, just like infinite amounts of videos, long form, short form videos a week or a month. And then now that I'm working with startup, I was like, okay, I've done infinite videos for this client. Let me do, say, 20 videos a month for this for this client. That didn't work out so well. That was a little too much, especially because working with startup has led me to this effect to where one client turns to two to four, 4 to 8, et cetera, et cetera. And I was like, wait, I can't do 30 videos a month for each person, especially because I'm just by myself. So it's been a real learning process. Like, okay, this client wants just a couple videos a month. They don't want anything fancy, special. I'll say, let's do 4 videos a month for this price. This client wants more videos. So I'll be like, okay, 8 videos a month, but it's going to cost this much. And
Tailored
then,
packages. Yeah.
And just,
Mm-hmm.
and that's another thing I've been struggling with too, is tailoring the package to the client. So I really have to talk to them and be like, what are your needs? What do you want? How can I help you? Instead of like, I'll just do as many videos as you need me to do. and then we'll talk payment later or whatever. So it's been a big learning process. Starting here at startup has kind of just been like a ground zero moment, and it feels like I kind of like relaunched my business in a way. So I've been really trying to like figure it out and get back to where I was, but being able to manage it at a manageable level instead of working 20 hours a day.
Yeah, and I think it's like an ongoing process, like even with the cleaning, like creating the packages and like it's not a one size fits all, and it's like okay, and like me, I'm kind of a perfectionist, it's like, well, I want like the perfect package that like everyone's gonna want and like, at the best price and like, and it's like I've changed my packages enough times and I'm like things morph, and it's like, how can we make it better? And like, what makes it more streamlined? And it's a process, so it's okay to start over and like back at ground zero and just kind of redefine things, because it's a lot of it is like you don't have all the answers in the beginning. Like you see what works and doesn't work, and it's like that process. So,
Yeah, tailoring the packages is the hardest thing because like I want to have standard packages, but also at the same time, clients want something different too, like often. So it's very hard to be like, here's my services, take it or leave it. Instead, I'm like, I tailor packages to you. So whatever you want, I will create something for you. And that's been something really hard that I've been trying to figure out. So it's just,
something that worked for us kind of really well, actually, because it's like we have the deep cleans, which are very involved a lot of times and costly. It's like to do a complete overhaul on a property or on a home or a business, can be very, especially if they hadn't had like a clean for a long time, it can be costly. Um, so we started doing like these add-ons, which could probably work for your business too, where it's like, I think, yeah, you've done a little bit of that. Yeah. So it's where it's like, here's our standard package. And if you want your fridge deep cleaned, like let us know and we'll do it for this much extra, or if you want your oven deep cleaned, so it's like optional add-ons. So they're not stuck with doing like the deluxe overhaul, but they have like the option to kind of custom tailor their packages throughout, their recurring process.
So as a business owner in a always changing market, you're always making adjustments and changes to your business model. And when your business advisor suggested that you were, um, you know, overly revolving around vacation rentals and suggested you diversify, what did you change about your business model? What adjustments did you make to your business to diversify and enter other markets outside of vacation rentals?
Marketing, like I said, the startup costs were nothing because it's like, oh, here's 20 properties, just clean them whenever we have a checkout. And we're like, okay, we didn't need to do like, we didn't really have like an online presence that much. I mean, I made a website and that was it, um, but essentially like I had to get our name out there, so um creating a Google business profile was like the easiest, like cheapest thing, making sure we had all those like the SEO in place and stuff like that so people could find us when they were searching for local cleaners. That was the first step. So I had to learn more about SEO and like the Google business profile, and then eventually started doing some Google local business advertising, which has been really good for us. So it was mainly just like, okay, let's get out there and like, try to like so people can find
Yeah.
us.
And
Yeah.
so you launched this marketing campaign, and your business has the credibility backed by a year or so of working on vacation rentals. Um, but taking a step back before you entered before you started the business, how did you get into that vacation rental scene? Like, how did you get that initial foot into the door?
Through working in the industry for quite a while. So I worked with the owner of the vacation rental company and several facets for in the industry for years.
So you started out by like managing rentals in general before you went into the cleaning specifically.
Yes.
I
So
see.
I didn't do anything with the cleaning here locally. I just did the marketing and reservations. And then when I purchased property in Mexico, I built two Airbnb rentals on my land. And so I started fully managing those and doing all the cleanings on them. And so that was kind of my first like cleaning experience with the rentals. And then started managing like luxury villas down in on the Pacific coast of Mexico, and had a team of cleaners that I was managing, because there was no way I was going to go like clean an 8-bedroom villa, and then, multiple on the same day. So I learned what it was like to manage a cleaning crew and a maintenance crew and all of that. So my buddy, who's like he's a great business owner. He's been somewhat of a mentor to me, over the years. Yeah, he just thought it was a no-brainer. He was like, okay, this lady knows the vacation rental industry. Let's have her, start a cleaning company.
That's awesome. My mom, about a year ago, bought or with her friend, bought a house in Cabo, and now they're renting it out on Airbnb.
Love that. Mm-hmm.
And I'm gonna get a free reservation. Well, I have to pay the cleaning fee, but I don't have to pay the reservation.
Heck
and,
yeah.
And so it's a super good deal, and I'm gonna go down with my friends. It's gonna be fun.
Nice.
So that's cool to hear that you're tapping into that market, and as a manager of rentals, did you use Airbnb or other online apps like that? What's your thought on Airbnb? What's your thought about that whole online rental market scene?
I love it. I live for it. It's like, yeah, like I don't think you were here when I was saying I went to Humboldt State and I did the their rec administration, which is kind of like an umbrella for a lot of different things. But I was heavily focused on tourism. I've traveled all over. I was like a backpacker in my youth, and went all over Latin America. And I just, something about travel in general is just, it's my passion, and then Airbnb came on the scene and I was like, this is awesome, and so I've just been really deep in it, really deep in it. Actually, so I had a mentor when I was going to Humboldt State who's also a local business owner. And I approached him and was like, hey, I need to do like this internship hours, to graduate as a requirement. So he worked with me in a lot of my professional development, and he's the one that linked me with the vacation rental company owner, and kind of directed me to that, just because they're all heavily in the tourism industry. And so that's what I like, and then living in Mexico, where I was in a town where tourism was huge, and so it's just something that drives me. Like, I love it. I love traveling. I love travelers, just everything about it. And so, yeah, I used all the platforms, VRBO, Airbnb, direct bookings, or it's like trying to drive direct bookings, and then owning a vacation rental franchise in Mexico. Just there's so many facets to it, but it's something I'm passionate about.
Have you ever thought about getting back into rental agencies and managing those?
I do think about it, but honestly, where I'm going, like your mom, like you were saying, so I have a teenager. She goes to Arcata High, is gonna graduate in a couple years, and so I'm like, okay, what's the next step? Because I do like to travel and I like to have accessibility, to other regions. So my kind of retirement plan is to, invest in properties in these places that are going to have tourism, and be able to frequent those places when I want, So I don't think I'm going to manage other people's, but I have a goal of owning at least a handful of vacation rentals and then having those as part of my retirement plan.
Do you say that the skills you learned running a vacation rental franchise, you were able to apply those into the cleaning business? Because a very consistent theme here on the podcast is some of our previous guests were able to apply skills in one business or like one field and turn it into something else. For example, our second episode, first guest, Will Franklin, said that he worked, he was a biology major from Bryn Mawr, and he worked in agriculture. he then wanted to start a wine business. So he took the biology skills and applied that to winemaking and growing grapes and turning that into a business. So do you think that's helped you, like working in a vacation rental, applying those skills to cleaning?
Yes. I mean, there were certain things that crossed over, like the marketing aspect, so I knew enough about marketing where I could build a website, I could build a landing page. Like I knew what a sales funnel was. I know how to create workflows and, like there's a lot of stuff that I did in my role as a marketer, independent marketing consultant for vacation rental companies. And then with the operations stuff, like managing a crew of people in Mexico that did the cleanings and the maintenance. And then I had an operations manager that I oversaw. That's all been extremely like translated very well into this current business. Yeah.
Calling all entrepreneurs in Humboldt County. This video is brought to you by Startup Humboldt. Startup Humboldt is powered by the NorCal SBDC, Cal Poly Humboldt, College of the Redwoods, and Lost Coast Ventures, and we're building the future right here on the North Coast. Here you'll find an intersection between education, economic development, and community. Every entrepreneur can turn ambition into lasting impact, so whether you've got a new idea, want to launch a podcast, or need space to bring your vision to life, Startup Humboldt is the place. Visit us at 876 7th Street in Arcata. Startup Humboldt, where ideas become action. Let's get back at it. And so, you're owning and managing this business. How do you balance reinvesting into growth for your business versus paying yourself out? And I think that, it's very easy as a business owner to be like, oh, I'm going to reinvest it all into my business. But, the reality of the situation is as people, we have rent or mortgages. We got to feed ourselves. And so, paying yourself is very important as a business owner. And if you don't do that, you're not going to be able to manage your personal life. So yeah, how do you balance reinvesting into the business versus paying yourself out?
Great question. I'm at a big point with that right now, and it's been really exciting. So I track my profit very closely, and of course, I pay myself out of whatever our profitability is for that pay period or that month. So I look at that like what's my net profit, and I of course don't take all of that out. Some months, like especially with the seasonality, like I was like in the first year, like I wasn't paying myself, which is pretty common for business owners. It takes like a year or two, but nowadays there's money left, there's net profit every month. And I just think, okay, I'm going to pay myself reasonably and leave some money in the business. So, like there's been periods of like reinvesting, but this year has been the biggest turning point for like, okay, I have X amount of money now in the account because I don't pay myself everything that comes in. I try to balance that to where, yeah, I can take care of my needs, but still leave enough money in the business, built up enough to where, like I was saying earlier, I was able to invest in some things, like a vehicle, but I also got to the point where I was able to create financing for the business, so so now all of a sudden I was able to get a loan for my vehicle, and then got a 0 interest credit card for the first time. So like I didn't have any financing or anything before. So like now it's like I have that as an option for reinvesting, which is what I've done. And then right now, actually today, I'm expanding to have a commercial window washing sector of the business. So I'm at this.
Congratulations.
Thank you. So I'm like, I've gotten a consultant to work with me to be like, hey, this is exactly what you need. And they're going to do all like the trainings and everything, but it's an investment. So I'm not going to finance that investment. I'm actually going to take the funds from that I have in my business savings to do the outright investment to expand that sector. And this is the way I look at it. Okay, what's the alternative right here? Because yeah, it's going to be the slow months, with the vacation rentals, things are slow. I'm not going to be able to pay myself as much. Oh, and by the way, now I'm going to spend, a chunk of money. I just got the vehicle wrapped. That was like expensive, So it's just finding a balance between now that I have some financing, like put some of that so it's not stressing the business account so much. Like finance what I can, what's manageable that I can pay off when the zero interest runs up. But like with this new venture, this new sector of the business, I'm just going to throw down because the alternative is not to create a second or another revenue stream. Like it's a no-brainer. Like people are already calling us for cleaning services. Like we can upsell so easily. So if I invest a couple grand, $2,000-3,000 into equipment and training and things like that, it's going to pay for itself. So I have to look at that. Like, yeah, I need to pay myself, but yeah, I need to finance some things, and yeah, I need to just pull out a pocket for some things if it's going to help get us to the next level. And that's where I think you have to like look at it. Is it going to pay for itself in the long run?
That's awesome. I love to hear that you have that like level of organization and commitment to managing your finances and figuring out, what striking the correct balance between the two.
Yeah, game changer with getting some financing because yeah, like there was some things where I would have never pulled the trigger if I didn't. And I went down to Chase Bank, like right over here, and the manager over there, I've known her for a long time. She's like, get this credit card, like, and I was always like, I don't want a credit card. I don't need a credit card. Like, I don't have a lot of expenses, like it's fine. Like yeah, but getting that credit card was huge. I was able to build out a sales team with that and buy a vehicle and wrap the vehicle. I would have never done that if I had to take it out of the business account. I would have never done it because it would have been too nerve wracking.
Totally. Sometimes, it takes money to make money, and you need to, take on that risk to expand. And, if you are a small business owner and you are looking to take out a line of credit, set up a business credit card, take out a commercial loan, it can be daunting. Not only just the idea of, taking that risk, but doing the paperwork and everything that goes along with applying for a loan. But one thing that can make, that process a lot easier is the Small Business Development Center. So the Small Business Development Center, you can come in, we do free advising and consulting. We can help clean up your books and finances. And ultimately, we can help you submit a loan application. And that's usually a business plan, projections, and your ask. What are you using the money for? And we'll help you tailor your application to get the best chances of approval with a lender. And we can also try to get you the optimal lender with the optimal rates and deal for your business. So if you are looking to expand and you need capital to do so, come down to the Small Business Development Center, and we can help you out with that.
Great plug, bro.
Yeah.
You killed it
Yeah.
this time.
And that's
yeah.
awesome. Yeah. Like like I said, I had to figure that all out, and to have that resource in the community is amazing.
So now that I got my plug in there,
That was so good, dude.
yeah, you like
That
that
was 100% better.
Man.
That was
Dude.
yeah. Oh, you should. I butchered. Like I every time I do it, I always break and I start laughing.
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys saw the
No,
smirk on that one. I almost broke.
No, I was dying the whole time though. I was
Yeah,
like, this
oh,
was
I
so
know.
good,
You almost made me
Yeah.
laugh.
But I
Yeah.
wanted to ask you, what was your best month running Redwood Coast Cleaners?
Like revenue wise,
Probably one of those summer months, huh?
well, summer months. Yeah. Are you looking for a dollar figure or
If you're comfortable saying that, you could say gross. You could say
Profit or
gross.
revenue?
Gross revenue.
gross revenue? We're in the $50K per month.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I'm still a little bit hung up on this 46%, vacation rental, and not negatively, positively. This business competition that we're hosting here, one of the key factors in it is scalability, and we want something that's going to bring money into Humboldt County. Things that brought money into Humboldt County over the last 5 decades are timber, cannabis, and also small businesses like I don't know, Yakima and these smaller businesses that come out of Humboldt County. And what they do is they bring money into the county. They create jobs here, which is what you've done. These vacation rentals are bringing money in to the county, and then they're paying out your cleaning service, which is paying wages, which is paying families here in Humboldt County. And that's really important. And that's like a big goal of the SBDC in economic development, is to bring money into these areas. And so, as somebody that's not only in cleaning but is in vacation rentals and tourism, you're a key stakeholder in the tourism industry of Humboldt County. One of the few things that's still bringing money into this county is tourism. Um, what is a way that we can improve tourism in Humboldt County?
Oh, geez. Yeah, that's the question. I
That was
know.
the question I was lining up.
Well, there's a lot of initiatives like the Visit Humboldt, there's the Visitor Bureau. There's a lot of people doing a lot of things out there, and they have been, for quite a while. And those things have morphed, I've gotten out of the marketing thing as much with the tourism industry. But there was always, I feel like that was always the question, what can be done? The Redwood Coast Air, I'm sure you've seen their stuff. Um, I think really it's just more about infrastructure.
So you think we could, if we invest in infrastructure, we'll see better results with tourism.
I think so.
I like that.
I
I
as
think
a
I think that makes sense. That's really important for tourism, is, people not hitting a pothole on their way up to, if they hit a pothole and then, get a flat tire or something in Humboldt, then they're probably their experience isn't going to be good. They're not going to come back, and that's not what we want to see.
Yeah, because I feel like, obviously we have Redwood National and State Parks. Like, that's the big draw. So it's like, okay, but what's beyond that? So it's like connecting the dots between, yeah, you're coming up to see the Redwood for us, but like, what else is going on? What else is popping? And so, like, revitalizing the old town areas, like that they're doing those Friday night markets and Eureka and stuff. So like just more stuff like that, and more involved campaigns, I think. I actually do a little bit of marketing for the vacation rental company that I work with now, and I have some strategies with that, of just kind of how the area is promoted, where it's promoted. So I think it's an evolving thing, but yeah, infrastructure is huge. Like, what else we got going on? We got the university, we got the Redwood, so how do we promote that? And what else is going on? Eureka's looking a little bit sad right now.
A lot of people want to, revive the Bayshore Mall, and that's like a big one that, it's they're like, we need to do something with it.
Yeah, there's a lot of opportunity, I think, whereas a lot of places that were more like rural or underdeveloped kind of like went with, one direction. But like here, I feel like it's this constant struggle of like wanting to keep it, the way it was, like keep it like, but I think they have to find a balance between like growing that infrastructure, growing the economy, while still keeping its charm, so to speak. So I don't think we've really struck a balance with that yet.
That's a big challenge in economic development, is, pushback you get with economic development. People are afraid to see change. But I think, in my opinion, and this, I guess this might be a little controversial, but, I think this county needs to have a more open mind to expand. If we continue, if we don't embrace change and we don't, adapt, this county will fall more and more behind. We're not going to have revenue streams. We have money. We're just a bleeding economy. Money is pouring out, but it's not coming back in. I think that, the tourism industry is great, because it's one of the things that still brings money in here into this economy. And it's nice to have a stakeholder's, point of view. And if you were to, give give the county one suggestion to, boost the tourism industry, or get more people to visit Humboldt, visit our state parks, what would that suggestion be? How, or maybe what would you market differently? Is there anything differently that you would do, or anything you'd change?
It's It's a hard one. There's so many, I think and I think I see them like kind of working on it a little bit, but that corridor on the 101, like going through Eureka, I think that should be a big focal point. I mean, they've cleaned up some of those areas that were very questionable, like going towards the mall, where they put that new like Starbucks and Wingstop and all that. Like, I think that corridor right there, it needs to be sexified, like
That's like the
there's,
first thing you see when you walk
yeah,
in too, or
like that
drive in.
needs some major revitalization. I know malls
100%.
across the nation are like, desolate, like we're not the only mall, so maybe not so much the mall, but like how can we make that area more sexy, more inviting, because it's a little bit sad, And then the old town's really cute, but like how can we kind of expand that and make it more inviting for visitors? Because like I remember the first time I grew up in Southern California. I've been here for over half my life now, but I remember the first time coming to Humboldt County, and this was over 24 years ago, like, where the hell am I? Like
That's
the,
what I thought too.
and then the
Coming here,
thing is, it hasn't really changed much in that time, and that's where I think there's opportunity. So I'd say some major revitalization on the main thoroughways. I know they're doing that development on the safety corridor, kind of putting overpasses and just stuff like that. That's just like bringing it up a few notches, I think that would help.
So I'm on the. I just recently became a board member for the Eureka Main Street, which is a nonprofit organization, which all over America, all in lots of different cities, and the goal is to improve the downtown scene of your location, which in this case is Eureka. And so one of the discussions is, with the limited amount of space you have in downtown Eureka, should that space be going to residentials, or should it be going towards parking for those businesses in the downtown area? A lot of people say, well, we should prioritize residentials because those residentials are going to go towards the people, and a lot of people say, well, we should prioritize parking because if there's no parking downtown, there's people aren't going to go to the businesses. The businesses are going to struggle, and then you have that problem. Do you lean to any side there as far as do you think they should prioritize parking or residentials, or do you find yourself in the middle? How do you feel about that?
controversial. But
Well, we're getting a little controversial. We got to
Yeah,
spice
yeah.
it up a little bit.
I'm kind of like a middle grounder with that. Like I can see both, it's like there has to be a balance. I think there's enough space there, to like create some additional parking. And yeah, like kind of figuring out what's a balance for that. So I don't really lean to either side. It's like, okay, we need both, So how do we figure what's the formula look like for that?
I have an idea, and it might be a little easier said than done, but invest in parking garages, especially for Cal Poly Humboldt, because everyone's like, oh, we can't build a parking lot because we need an apartment, or we can't build an apartment because we need a parking lot. Either do underground parking, easier said than done, I'll admit, but underground parking or parking garages. So that's just my
Well,
opinion.
think about it. We have more open space here than like, most cities, and so like there's got to be a formula, like I said. There just has to be a balance.
The soil here, I think is a soil, or just the ground in general. I think they're also there's a structural thing involved with that, or like sciency. I remember there's this building being built on campus, and they couldn't do anything until they tested the ground and make sure that it's stable. So maybe that's one of the issues.
We got to talk to Lonnie. We got to talk to some engineer.
Oh,
We got to talk to some
yeah.
engineers and be like, all
Like,
right.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Well,
But yeah, parking garages
well,
for
that
sure.
Cal Poly Humboldt. That brings me to education, which is a question we ask very frequently on this podcast. How do you feel about the bachelor's degree? Is it still worth it? Do you regret going down the college route at all? What was tell me a little bit about your experience at Humboldt State University, and if you feel like it was worth it, reflecting on your career.
100% worth it. So I had a kind of a not a linear journey. I moved here from Southern California to go to Humboldt
What
State,
part?
Los Angeles. Go
Okay.
Dodgers!
I'm Ventura County.
Okay, my family lives in Ventura,
Nice.
but I was born right by Dodger Stadium. So
Nice.
World Series 2 times in a row.
that's awesome.
So yeah, I graduated LA City College, transferred right into
Moore
Humboldt
Park
State.
Community College.
Okay, I know. No more park. So yeah, transferred up here, and then I ran out of money really quickly. I didn't have like as much financial aid, at the time, and so I actually worked for Yakima. I did work for Yakima until they moved up to Beaverton, and I didn't go back to school until my daughter was almost 1 year old. Several years later, I went back to school and I went and got my bachelor's. It was 100% worth it, and like I said, I did kind of almost like a self-design major under the rec administration, but I did the business minor at Humboldt State. Totally worth it. And the one class, it was an optional class that I took that changed my life, and I think was a factor that led me to where I'm at, just kind of planted the seed for me, was a 1 credit class, optional class with Nancy Visner. She's the head of the business. It was a speaker series, and they invited local business owners to come in every week, a different guest speaker, told us their story as a business owner.
I was involved in that too.
Awesome.
I took that class. I hate to cut you short,
Mhm.
but we are running out of time.
I know.
Yeah,
So yes, get the bachelor. It's 100% worth it. I don't know what's changed with the Cal Poly system and everything, but the business degree, that's what's pushed me into the realm of being a business owner, 100%.
Yeah, shout out Nancy Visner, who gets a lot of shout outs on here, and the Business Owner Speaker Series, which is a really cool thing at Cal Poly Humboldt. And yeah, if you go to Cal Poly Humboldt, definitely check that out.
Yeah, take that. If you're at all interested in business and all, just definitely take it.
Okay, so we're going to do a rapid fire round.
Okay.
It's going to be 5 questions. You either answer in 1 word or a short sentence.
Okay.
What's one lesson business ownership in Humboldt has taught you the hard way?
Geez, this isn't quite rapid.
It's okay.
So in Humboldt specifically, or
Business ownership in Humboldt, yeah.
Word of mouth.
What's something you think every small business owner should stop worrying about?
Expanding, just do it.
What's the best piece of advice you've ever ignored and we're glad you did?
Don't take one-time cleans.
What does success look like to you right now?
Hitting my highest revenue goals without the in other sectors of my business. So bridging that gap, consistent revenue.
If you had to start from scratch tomorrow, what's the first thing you'd do?
Thin slice.
Okay. Any closing thoughts or advice to business owners who want to start up and just get going?
It's a process. Don't be afraid to do it. Don't be afraid to fail. It's through failing and just seeing what systems don't work. Create systems knowing that they're going to probably fail, or if they do succeed, great, but it's a morphing thing. Don't be afraid to start. Don't be afraid to fail. Just do it.
All right. Guys.
Can I get one last question?
Yeah.
Is that all right? Okay. You said you worked at you mentioned you worked at Yakima. One of the big problems that Startup Humboldt is trying to address is talent flight, individual and business. Why did Yakima leave Humboldt County, and how can we make sure companies like that stay?
I don't know. It was really interesting when they left, and they actually invited us to go with them to Beaverton. And I was like, no, I just moved here a couple of years ago. I'm not leaving, I didn't move to Beaverton. I moved to Humboldt State, go to Humboldt State. So I don't know. I guess I think it goes back to infrastructure, Luke. I think it's just we're not doing anything different here. we're not like expanding at a rate that other areas are expanding. Look at like even like Medford. Medford was a crap hole, you just passed, and now at some point they were like, we're gonna just bring in all this stuff, and like now that's like that's one place to look at, it's like I think we have to like not be afraid of change, and like grow the infrastructure and keep businesses here, keep people like people need to make money here too, bring in the job, like it's just a full cycle thing. Yeah, but I think the infrastructure, like how do we modernize this place a little bit more?
All right. And lots of great conversations here going on today. Thank you, Dawn, for joining us. That has been an episode of Behind the Redwood Curtain.
Thank you guys. Yeah, pleasure being here.
Of course, if you guys like this podcast, make sure to like and subscribe for more just like this. My name is Andrew Pescatori, and this is my co-host, Luke Kennedy. We'll see you next time.